Welcome back to my channel. As I always say, like, comment, share, subscribe. I hope you read the title of this one because it's going to trigger people, but my videos always trigger people because they're rooted in truth. But the reason why I felt the need to do this video today was because of a clip that I come across a couple of days ago. I just want to share with you a quick clip of exactly what was said, and I'm going to highlight today why I feel the need to speak on it.
Lack and failure for your own faith, not about other people that's actually doing it under the law and under the sort of like Human Rights Act and under the freedom of British, values. Go on, Linda.
Now, the reason why this clip stood out to me is for a number of reasons. Now, I'm not targeting this faith alone. I'm going to be targeting a few different demographics, and it's going to be not only religious demographics, but also class demographics, and explain I'll give you a summary of the cause and effect of your mindset, the way you think, and how it affects future generations. Now, let's start with Islam. Now, the issue we're having with Islam is because they believe that the reason why they're having this huge takeover is because people just aren't Christian anymore. We're just not Christians anymore. Now, there's two things I have to say about this. Number one, if you are a liberal, you are not Christian, because Jesus was never liberal. And we have a lot of people in politics that are making decisions, guys as being under the church, who are making decisions as liberals. Tony Blair was liberal and made some awful decisions, and he stands by them because his faith is upside down. He was never liberal. Jesus was not a liberal man. So a lot of the things that are happening in the House of Lords are coming from liberal Christians that don't exist. No such thing. It's smoke and mirrors, and it's wolves in sheep clothing. That's number one. Number two, Christianity isn't being watered down because people aren't Christian anymore. Christianity is being watered down because this faith, allowing men to have so many wives, means you are breeding so much that it is drowning out all different faiths. It's not because it is the faith and it's the truth. It's because, well, if you're in a room and there's 500 people in one room, there's going to only be 3 Christians and everybody else is going to be of the other faith if you are able to have so many children. It's just maths more than it is people not having faith. And the reason why Islam is not the truth is because if your God or the prophet that you follow is allowing men to have more than one wife, which means their families are growing, the consequences of growing such huge families and trying to have this huge one world takeover, which I believe this is what your prophet wants, is you're not looking at things from an earthly perspective of reality and consequences, because what we're having now is an overpopulation problem. And if you keep just having more and more children, it's affecting the planet itself. It's affecting England for sure, because then you come over with your ideologies to England, then you're having so many children, you're now raping and taking all the resources from now that country as well. And this is the reason why we have to have a clear divide, that Christian countries should have more boundaries when it comes to the faith of Islam, because it is not only a faith that makes Christians feel threatened, and Jews, because they see Christians and Jews as infidels, and so they are threatened by Christians and Jews, and these radicals want to terminate Christians and Jews. So that's an issue psychologically. You also then come to countries and you're consuming and you're taking and taking and taking. And so because you're doing that, what's being taken is Greenland. So now there's no countrysides, because now we're having to build more houses. We need more filters for reserves because you're overpopulating. There's too many people. The earth can only sustain so much. And if you keep having big, huge families, then we're going to have to take more of the countryside because we have a huge demand. Right now, if one person tried to go and get a fishing rod and fish one fish out the sea for one person, there wouldn't be enough fish. which means that we are overpopulating. So to have a faith that is actually now going to be creating you to self-destruct, that doesn't sound like God to me. Now, the other demographic that does this is poorer families. Poor families haven't been educated in consequences of having 6, 7 children in a household, because a lot of the times when a family can't cope with having 2, 3 children, they keep having children to look after the other children. And it's the same thing. You're overpopulating. So you are consuming too many resources. And for me, going into the political field, one of my policies, whether people like this or not, would be having a cap on how many children a family or a household can really have. And that is just due to the fact that because we keep overpopulating, we are taking parts of agriculture. And if we do not have agriculture, we can't sustain anyway. We wouldn't be able to sustain it. We are going to see much more problems in terms of poverty and the fact that there isn't enough out there for everybody because there's too many people and we're not educated in this. You can't keep having big families of 7, 8 and in more areas that are more deprived, and in obviously this faith of Islam that is trying to come over and dominate. You're not looking at the long-term effects of what you're doing, and you're trying to push out as many children to dominate Islam, or then you have poverty-stricken families that want to pop out more children so that they can help with the other children. Okay, that's fair enough, but now these children need resources. We don't have enough. A few days ago, a friend and I went for a dog walk and we took the dog over to the marshes. And he's an older friend of mine who was explaining to me what the area used to look like when he was growing up. And he explained to me all the changes they've made, all of the rivers they've got rid of. They used to have wildlife, there'd be ducks. He used to go off and hunt with his children when he was younger, with his friends when they were children. And he was showing me all the areas that have been affected because they've had to put in a huge water system, a filter system, in an area where there used to be reservoirs and lakes and rivers, and a lot of the wildlife have been affected and been taken out. And when we spoke about it, the reason why, because obviously once upon a time there wasn't a filter system there because it wasn't needed, and the answer was due to demand. So as the population grows, you're having to take away from wildlife, and then you're going to have to keep demanding more housing, more, and you're taking, it needs to be balanced. So the only way you're going to balance it is if you have smaller families, which would be a household of, I would say, 3. 4 would be at a max. A household of 4, which would balance out agriculture and the land, because there's only so much it can sustain itself. If you have a small plot of land and you have 8 children, there's only so much that land can harvest. Plus the land needs time to rest, and it's not. So we're just going over it over and over and over again. So having all these children is great, but if there's nothing for them left and no resources left, you're actually creating a prophecy for them that's going to end in destruction. A lot of things that are missing in politics is balance and being afraid to tell the truth. But I feel like if the consequences of telling the truth have got us where we are right now, then things need to be spoken of. And for me, if something's not broken, don't fix it. And how things were back in 1950, 1960 were so much better than they are now. So instead of us being so progressive, why are you trying to be progressive when it doesn't work? People are more depressed and more unhappy than they ever were before. So you have to look back to see what has changed and what has made things the way they are. Progression is not what we need. If something's not broke, do not fix it. And so many people are looking to be important and have a job that they are changing things that do not or never needed to be changed. And now they're being changed and we're becoming progressive and woke. It's actually making the human psyche more in more turmoil than it ever did years ago. Children don't have time to think. Children don't have time to play. I can't tell you the last time I even saw a hedgehog. You don't see it anymore. You can't learn these things because it's all about supply, demand, making money to a point where you're stripping the planet. What is the point in having politics and having religions and having faiths if there's not a planet that can sustain itself to live on, to enjoy these things in the first place? These things aren't taught to you. These things were never taught to me. However, with what I've seen is the cause and effect of demand and industrialization and needs and wants, either things needing to be met or just wanting to be met. And, you know, fundamentally, living on a planet with a certain amount of resources, these things cannot keep being ignored, because areas that were once quiet countrysides are slowly but surely being taken over. You cannot sustain a planet that the whole of the planet looks like London. You have to have countryside, and if you do not take that in with everything else, and you have to look at things like demographics or belief systems of certain religions, and maybe them being restricted, because fundamentally what they believe, is it working in their country? It's not. So why would you bring it into a country and then implement it as well if it's not working there? It doesn't make sense. And there is much more to human rights in this situation. It's heavier and deeper than just human rights. This is about survival of the country, and making sure we make the right choices to keep things going. Fundamentally, these kind of topics that I speak on aren't the most popular, but these are topics that need to be discussed, because these are the problems that will fix a lot of these issues. And a lot of people actually like problems so that people become reliant on them. And the difference with conscious rebellion is we are looking for solution. We are not looking to fulfill our ego and get people dependent on us. We want you to be dependent as a sovereign human being instead of just finding problems for you with no solution. These are solutions. They need to be discussed. If you like my content, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.